Yesterday, I got into an interesting conversation with a fellow that I met while I was shooting at the British Council. Currently, the British Council is in Abuja and they're organizing a business accelerator session where where they're helping to train different entrepreneurs from all over Nigeria to help them improve their business. They've gone through different aspects, things like business plan writing, helping them focus. But anyway, that's not the purpose of the video. So the fellow that I was speaking with is involved in the oil and gas industry. He sells gas, he sells and distributes gas cylinders and helps to create entrepreneurs along the way. Now, anyway, he's also a photography buff and he happened to notice my gear. And after the session, he came over to have a talk. And a lot of the conversation turned on things such as does the camera that you use make a difference? And this is what I told him and what I want to share today. So in my own opinion, all cameras are the same because the principles and the technology behind the modern DSLR that we carry are all the same. Now, there are going to be differences in their capabilities because I mentioned to the oil and gas fellow that the only difference between his camera and my own camera was the light sensitivity, because he has a camera that's an entry-level DSLR and my own camera is more of an enthusiast or an amateur model, so the light sensitivity on it's much better, and so because of that I can cope better in low light situations. However, because of my training over the years in photography, even if I had to shoot with his own camera with its low light sensitivity, I would still be able to cope. And then he also brought up the subject of lenses, and that I had to agree with him that sometimes the lens choice is more critical in what you do, as a photographer, than the body itself. So once you have a competent body, then depending on the needs of what it is that you're trying to shoot, then lens choice now becomes a critical factor. So in this case, since I'm shooting an event, and I'm having to deal with challenging light situation, I was using my primes that would allow me to open up the apertures to 1.8. I have a 1.8 lens and a 2.8 lens. So in that case, the choice of lens would be critical. And then we discussed other things like wildlife photography and other aspects of photography. And I also used that to buttress the point as well, that if you're that if you shoot animals, then using the lenses that I was using for the wedding, sorry, not for the wedding, for the occasion, pardon me, I'm a wedding, I shoot mostly weddings, so that's where the slip came from. Anyway, if one were to shoot animals with the lenses that I brought along, it wouldn't make much of a choice because I was using, sorry, it wouldn't make much sense because I was using a 35mm and an 85mm lens. Now, to shoot wildlife with those lenses would mean that you'd have to get incredibly close to the lion or the hyena or the elephant or whatever it is that you're shooting, and for safety reasons, that is not a very wise choice. So in that case, one would have to use a much longer lens, like a 70 to 300, or probably even much. Sorry, excuse me. Probably even much longer than that. So, bottom line, in my own opinion, all cameras are the same. There are just slight differences in their capabilities, and it doesn't help for you to think in terms of which model of camera is the best, but to think in terms of which category of camera am I dealing with and which category would suit the best for me. And in my own opinion, an easy way to think about it would be to look at it this way. There are entry-level cameras for people who are just starting out, who don't have too much money and who want to learn. And then there are enthusiast or amateur models. Those are for people who have already learned quite a bit and want to invest some money so they can take the game further. And then there are professional model cameras. Now, in my own opinion, they're essentially all the same, but there are going to be differences in light sensitivity and then ergonomics. That's how the camera is built, how comfortable it is, where the buttons are placed so you can reach different features quicker. But if you're just starting out in photography and you want to get one camera, just pay attention to your budget. Whatever camera you can afford, whether it's an entry level, an enthusiast model, or a professional model, would suit you just fine, and you'll be able to go from there as you learn along, and you'll be able to adapt your gear choice, whether the body or the lenses. You'll be able to adapt that according to things you learn, on, on the job. As you learn what interests you, then you'll be able to adapt your gear choice and your lens choice as you go along. So that's the end of this video, and hopefully I'll make another one in a couple of days.